For those people who are still not quite clear on the benefit of testosterone, like maybe you can just quickly list what they do for men and women.
Sure. It's honestly a great question. So basically, testosterone is the essential lifeblood molecule, right? Like it's what differentiates us sexually, between male and female. Like I always tell people this, that like in utero, the reason a woman is different than a man is because a man has a higher testosterone signal. It's literally that simple. Like if you take a woman and you give her, high levels of testosterone, not therapeutic, we're talking about super physiologic, you make them into a dude. It's literally that simple. Hence we've all seen these bodybuilder women that abuse steroids, mostly anabolics, and they look like dudes. They got a deep voice and they become physically, necks and shoulders, they look like a guy because again, this is what testosterone truly does. So when you understand that, you understand how powerful of a molecule it is. Essentially it is the lifeblood molecule for human beings. So when you have a deficiency, okay, and obviously, as you know, Joy, if you live in a major city today and anywhere in the world, we are under siege, right? Like the biochemical onslaught from the air that we breathe, the water that we drink, the blue light coming out of our screens, you cannot escape it. So most people are suffering hormonal deficiencies and declines and don't even know it, and then if we went deeper, and this, but if we went deeper, the medical schools are not teaching doctors about hormone optimization, right? Like this is something that you have to learn on your own, in your practice, because it's, again, Big Pharma doesn't want people to be hormonally optimized because then they don't need drugs that, that Big Pharma makes money off of as they age and start to decline. But, in truth, to very simply, you need an optimized set of hormones from, thyroid, from testosterone, and from your pancreas as you age, because if you don't, your body is going to start declining. You're going to have less muscle, higher body fat. You're going to be, metabolically dysregulated, all sorts of things. You become softer. The one other thing I didn't mention, which is very important, is that, testosterone improves dopamine signaling. So you have more energy. You have way better cognition. The number one symptom of a testosterone deficiency for both men and women is literally cognitive decline, and very few people understand that. But the symptom that most guys and women complain of when they go to their, say, PPO or primary care doctor who knows nothing about hormone optimization is like, well, doc, I feel like shit at 2:00. I want to go home and take a nap. And so then that doctor, not knowing anything about hormones, is going to be like, oh, well, I got just the thing for you. And they recommend or, write them a script for, brain altering, medication. And if it's a guy, and now even with women, with what's the women's, hormone, not hormone, but the women's sexual function drug. I forget what it's called, Libinzarin or something, but they write you a script for brain and for, penis or some sort of sexual dysfunction stuff. And so then the guy or the girl goes home, and both of those drugs mask the root cause, which again is a hormonal deficiency, and literally, Joy, lead to worse root cause issues, because we now know that Wellbutrin and all the brain stuff, I can't even remember half the Prozac, half of these drugs now cause a further disruption in the hypogonadal axis. So it actually declines testosterone even further. You put a man on that for 15 to 18 months and they have no testosterone, and I can go on and on where there's so many different drugs, statins. Again, I can go on and on and on. There's so many drugs that actually suppress or depress, the HPT and HPGA axis, which again, just causes further dysregulation hormonally. So now the person, male or female, just becomes a mess, right? They have all sorts of other effects. But when you're optimized hormonally, you have unlimited energy. You're basically like me, right? You're like this hyper kinetic person who's like, it's 4:30 in the afternoon. I've had a day. I've been going since 5. And I'm still fully energized, right? Because again, I'm hormonally optimized. I, take therapeutic testosterone. I take a therapeutic dose of desiccated thyroid, to bump and modulate my thyroid. I'm also using metformin. I do use peptides and, various other stuff, intermittently throughout the year. But this is the difference, like a person who's not hormonally optimized, who's 50, I'm 51 now, is on the slow, gradual, if not, horrendous steep decline, because you just cannot maintain your biological system functionality if your hormones aren't optimized. So, I mean, it's really the difference between night and day. And as I say always to anybody about this, the differentiation is so stark that you will really look at your life pre-hormonal optimization and post. And when I say, like, because you'll ask me, and maybe the person watching this is thinking this, like, well, when do I start? You start as soon as you start feeling like shit. And unfortunately, there's a lot of young people, as you know, now in their late 20s who are already suffering for hormonal deficiency. In fact, there's a doctor that I've had on my podcast. It's a woman. I forget her name. She's amazing. And she says that if you took a random sampling of 100 women under the age of 30 in the United States, actually she says North America today, and you tested them, you would find that almost all of them are chemically castrated. They have high levels of estrogen and no testosterone, and for men, it's the same. So, I mean, like, we are in an environment now where people are being absolutely decimated from all angles. And, the biggest tool in the tool belt is optimizing your hormones. Yeah, sure. You can optimize nutrition. You can exercise, you can eat a, insulin controlled diet. You can change the dysregulation in your microbiome of your gut. You can start doing things, but it's like I always say, like, if you don't have optimized hormones, you don't have the energy to make all those other changes. Optimizing your diet, changing the way you eat, meal prepping, doing all that, like, without optimized hormones, you're not going to even have the energy to do that stuff, right? Like, maybe if you're wealthy, you can hire somebody to do it, but you still, it's one foot. You can't put the cart in front of the horse. You have to have optimized hormones to truly understand, like, the energy expenditure and requirement necessary to do all the other things that you want to do, as you live your life. And clearly, if I didn't have optimized hormones, I definitely would not be as healthy, as I act and as I feel, because, that is the stimulus or the impetus that allows me to do all the other stuff, because I have enough energy to do that.